You know, you see all the Instagram pictures, you see all the wonderful moments. People showcase everything great. But what happens when you get a call in the middle of the night and you're oceans away from everyone that you love? Or I'm a single mom living abroad. What happens when my son has to go to emergency in the middle of the night? Or better yet, I'm sick and I have to go to the emergency. We don't anticipate what can happen, but let's just go ahead and be real about what can happen. And today, I want to talk to you about the the not so great parts of being a single mom living abroad. Come with me. So, you know, it's wonderful when it all works out. It's wonderful when you're having the time of your life. However, this is not the first time that I've actually had to deal with something like this, but this is the first time that I'm dealing with it so far away from home. So, when I lived in Mexico, there was a moment where maybe I was living there 3 or 4 months and I didn't feel right. So I was like, I'm gonna go to the doctor. However, I always try to like look at the holistic natural remedy first. And I have found this guy who did holistic healing, and he referred me to a clinic that was not too far from my house. And there was a shaman, and it was quite interesting. But what actually happened was I went and I got there, and it was like a little church, and they had doctors, and they had this lady, and this lady, like, I think she was blind. I'm almost certain she was. But like she did a prayer over you, and then she just started, her eyes like rolled back, and then she basically just said whatever was your ailment. And then you went and sat down, and then they called you back. And then a lady would basically tell you what she said and translate everything, and then give you a prescription for whatever the diagnosis was. And so, one part of this was her taking me outside. She was like, you need to get this. She's like, I'll show you. So she went outside to the street. And you know how dandelions grow in the cracks of the street? Well, it was some kind of weed that was growing in the cracks of the sidewalk. And she snatched it up, and then she was like, this is what you're going to get. You find it on the street. And I was like, are you serious right now? Like, do you know how many street dogs compete on that? No, baby. So I can't make this stuff up. My life is a whole book. So, but at that time, um, they were saying that I had like kidney issues, and she told me to go get some Jamaica or hibiscus, and and drink that, which I was okay. I went to the store, I got some, all was good, but I was just like, I had so many things going on in my mind. Like, what is really happening to me? Like, what does this mean? Is this like kidney failure? Like, I had already like summons my whole death. So lo and behold, a lady, an older lady I knew in Merida, had came to my house, and she was like, "No, we're not doing this. You're gonna call the doctor. Here's the doctor's number. Like, she'll come through house calls, yada yada yada." And so literally, I called the doctor. I went in. I did a whole line of tests, and I've always I've been anemic for a long time. So basically, they gave me some iron pills. It was like, there's nothing wrong with your kidneys. Don't judge me. Don't judge me. But what it was very scary, because at that time my son was like, he wasn't even two, I don't think. Um, and I was just like, everything was going in my head. Luckily, I could have got on a flight and been home, and home meaning the United States, within 2 hours. So it wasn't that bad. But when you consider being out here in these global streets without a covering sometimes, that can lend to all kinds of different things. And so I know we like looking at the pictures. I know we like talking about, oh, my life is so fabulous out here. My rent is $700, $500, whatever the rent is. And how much you can save and the quality of life that you can have. However, there are some other aspects that come with that you have to be cognizant of. And the other day I did a whole video on natural disasters that comes with the territory. But I want people to be cognizant that there are situations, especially as a single person or a single mom, you're pretty much out here alone. You might build a community here and there, but for the most part, if something happens to you, depending on where you are, you're going to be far away from your family. If somebody calls you in the middle of the night and there's a death in your family, you can't just like roll out of the bed and go down the street. That's not happening. So you have to be aware. The other thing is, and what prompted this video is the fact that 2 days ago I went and got a line of tests. And they basically scanned my head from my head to my feet. Sorry, y'all gonna hear firecrackers in the back because it is the end of Ramadan and we're into Eid, and now the firecrackers have been going on since December. But let me get back to what I was saying before I totally lose my train of thought. But I got the screening, this health screening, and they tell you everything. They even bring up a screen and they're showing you as the body parts are being scanned, like different colors to see if there's inflammation and if there's a problem area. So their colors go from yellow to purple, and yellow meaning everything is copacetic, and then you have like a red or orange color, and that means that it's some inflammation but minor. And then you get down to like purple and brown, and that means like you need to seriously fix that, or it's gone to a point where it's you need some help, right? So, but you're watching this, and I remember seeing a brown part. Well, hold up, can we rewind this? What's going on here? And I did the screening, so that was a couple days ago. That was this weekend. So now it's Wednesday night, and earlier today I had my results given to me. And I'll say this, the results were not as bad as I thought they were, but there's definitely a major issue that needs to be dealt with. And so I just became really melancholy about like everything today, because I realized that I'm oceans away from home. I realized that my friend group is small, very small. And I didn't feel like this in Mexico. I felt like, if nothing else happens, I can go home, right, quickly. But the way the world's set up today, I don't even know what home is. But just to keep it 100, like all the thoughts, I don't really have any negative thoughts. It's just I know that there needs to be a lifestyle change and some drastic shifts. But I also had to have a conversation with my child about, and he's on this health kick anyways. Like he told me last week, I don't ever want to have French fries again because they're not healthy. I don't want to eat pizza. Pizza's not healthy. And I was like, you don't want no pizza? And he's like, no, I don't. He doesn't drink soda anymore. He used to drink Sprite every now and again because I don't buy soda unless we're at like a restaurant. And so he was like, I don't want to have soda anymore. I'll have iced lemon tea because that's healthier. And I was like, touche. It's slightly healthier. I'm not sure how much healthier it is, but slightly. He was like, but we'll have tea. And I'm like, how about we go with some watermelon juice or something? But I had to like have a we took a walk and I had to have a conversation with him about, health and that I'm not feeling good and I need his help. But I also need him to understand that we have to have some lifestyle shifts. We're going to eat better. We're going to, and I don't really know how much better I can eat because I really don't eat meat like that. Like I eat seafood or fish. Um, I'm mostly on a Mediterranean diet. I love cucumbers, tomatoes, hummus. I make my own hummus. So like, um, yeah, like I hardly even eat. And so now you want me to change everything. But anyways, um, yeah. So we eat a lot of vegetables and I'm the organic person. I love vegetables, but it's the other stuff because I'll make a cake in a minute. I'll make a peach cobbler in a minute, and I'll be like, listen, oh, today we're gonna have a German chocolate cake. I'm making the frosting, all that, because it's the taurus in me. It's just like, you want me to feed you? I can feed you, baby. I can feed you. But I say all that to say that it can be very daunting when you start thinking about like, I remember when we first got here, I had to teach my son, don't call 911, call 999. That's the emergency number. Um, and then I had to think about like who, how would he call? Who would he call? What order would he call them? Like, we know a couple families here, but my son is so smart. I have to put locks on certain things because if you give him your password, baby, he's remembering that forever. So I have to like lock it down. And I was like, that's not safe because now he can't even get into the phone. He can't even get into the tablet because there's all these parameters. So how is he making phone calls? How is he, making connections other than through an emergency number? So that can be very scary when you're starting to think about, especially with traveling with a child, like how are you preparing for the worst things to happen and what is in place so that your life doesn't just shift in a negative way. And so those are things that you have to think about. And although I think traveling and being able to go on said vacations and see different things, I'm not a tourist. I live here. So, I'm a little settled. But um it's interesting. It's quite interesting when you start thinking about how life can just shift and you need to be prepared for it. So, if you are a single mom and you're thinking about living abroad and or you are living abroad and you haven't really created your crisis management plan, baby, it's a good time to do so. Not only for crisis like disasters, but for the fact that your health can shift. I have been in situations, especially when I lived in Korea, where somebody went out and was bungee jumping and ends up in a coma, something like that. And you have to figure out how you getting home. And in a lot of countries, it's not like the US where, they'll take you if you're sick. Like you can still go to emergency. You're just gonna get a bill later that's a gazillion dollars. But in other countries, they're not even gonna see you. I know in Mexico, like if you don't pay the bill up front, like they gonna sit you outside the hospital. It's not happening like that. So you have to be thinking about that. Like your insurance plans, make sure that they're up to date. Make sure you just have contingency plans and that you're thinking about the scary moments too. So, you know, I tried to do this video earlier, but I was just in tears and I couldn't get it out. So now that I'm in a much better place, I wanted to go ahead and just drop this video just so that wherever you are in your journey, you can start thinking about those other moments because yes, this is a great life. It comes with a lot of different caveats, and you have a gamut that from one day it could be this, to the next day it could be this, and there's just so many things that broadens your life being able to live abroad, right? However, there are things that you also have to think about. And so, as a single mom, I always think about if I have to go to the emergency room. Luckily, I live across the street from a hospital, but I don't want to go to the hospital. Nobody does. I don't want to be in a hospital, and I don't want to have to take nobody to the hospital. And so, it is imperative that you think about, like, if you do have to go to the hospital, what does that look like? And so that's one of the scariest things. And so I say to you, have a contingency plan, have protocols in place, especially when you're dealing with children and you have children that are traveling with you, that they know how to call the emergency number, that they know who's a backup person, and that they feel safe. So I hope that this helps. Please drop a comment to let me know if it helps. What are your contingency plans? What is the thing that scares you the most? Because this also deals with like the fear of being able to travel and to be far away from your friends and family. And so I know, and I talk about this all the time, but fear shouldn't stop you, but a plan should keep you going. So think about that. And I hope that me sharing part of my journey can encourage you to start yours or to continue yours. And let's talk about it. But until next time, just remember to just live your best life. Always drift deep. Peace.